The greatest anguish you carry is founded on a fundamental misperception of physics. You have been meticulously taught by the heavy, rigid laws of the material world that when a loved one takes their last breath, their connection to you is absolutely, irrevocably terminated. This accepted finality is the root of your deepest sorrow, and I am here to tell you that the very architecture of reality, as described by Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, demonstrates the impossibility of true separation. I want you to hold this audacious thought close, that the cessation of physical existence is not an extinction event. Your pragmatic, skeptical mind, that crucial survival mechanism, is already attempting to rationalize this, quick to label any lingering feeling of presence as wishful thinking or simple, complex grief. But your analytical brain fundamentally misunderstands the mechanism of the soul. Cayce revealed over and over that death is not a final verdict, X. It is merely an instantaneous, dramatic adjustment of frequency, Y. The physical casing dissolves, but the intelligent energy that directed it, the very essence of your loved one, simply moves to a higher, faster vibration. If love is, as Cayce asserted, the only true cohesive law of the universe, the bond that defined your relationship did not disappear. It merely became invisible to the five senses. The soul does not lose its capacity for interaction. It sheds the density that made interaction slow and cumbersome. Think of your loved one not as a distant memory, but as a broadcast station that has moved from the AM dial to the FM dial. They are clearer, but you must retune your spiritual receiver to perceive them. Do you ever experience a sudden, overwhelming sense of their personality or distinct presence when you are completely alone? A feeling that surpasses mere recollection. We often dismiss their earnest attempts to reach us. We label the signs we receive as trivial coincidence, or worse, we confuse deep spiritual connection with psychological stress. I assure you, what you are experiencing are not random phenomena, X. They are subtle, powerful, energetic transmissions confirming the continuation of consciousness and the enduring truth of your love, Y. These signals are often cloaked in the ordinary, hidden in plain sight, but they carry an unmistakable signature. There are 7 distinct ways that the energy of your departed loved one makes contact with your energetic blueprint right now. Recognizing these signals requires you to temporarily suspend the belief that proximity demands physicality. Your task is to stop listening for a voice through the heavy static of sorrow and instead to attune your being to the clear, resonant signal of their undying love. Are you ready to admit that the inexplicable, quiet certainty in your heart might be the most reliable evidence of their presence? We begin with the first sign, the one that bypasses the mind entirely and touches you directly in your body. The world has a name for the persistent ache that lingers long after the accepted period of mourning has passed, especially when that ache is intertwined with an almost arrogant certainty that the connection persists. It calls this state complicated grief, or perhaps simply denial. The cold, calculating voices of modern psychology are quick to label the lingering presence you sense, the deep, knowing certainty that your loved one is still here, as a profound failure to process reality, X. They want you to believe that the strength of your intuition is merely a manifestation of pain, a coping mechanism gone rogue, or a sign that you are unwilling to relinquish the illusion of control. But I urge you to look closer. What if this unwavering refusal to accept the finality of physical separation is not a psychological defect, but an energetic imperative? Your soul, my friend, operates on a timescale that utterly dwarfs the 60 or 80 years allotted to this current body. The logic of the spirit is simple, echoing the central teaching of Cayce. Love is the only law, and if love is the fundamental structure of the universe, then true separation is an impossibility. When the physical shell drops away, your eternal self perceives this event not as an ending but merely as a shift in vibrational address, much like changing continents. The memory of the physical body fades, but the energetic pattern, the signature frequency of their love, remains perfectly clear to your own soul. When you feel that inexplicable well of certainty, that deep internal know they are still present, It is your eternal self overriding the temporary protective programming of your human brain. Have you noticed how the mind tries to dismiss these feelings, arguing with you, trying to reduce the mystery to neurochemical imbalance, but the heart simply will not comply? It is because the heart acts as the soul's intuitive listening post, refusing to be convinced by the illusion of the physical curtain. That curtain, woven from time and space, is far thinner than the materialist world teaches. You are oscillating wildly, I know, between believing this deep truth and fearing that you are simply indulging in wishful thinking. You spend energy trying to police your own intuition, desperate to distinguish the signal from the sorrow. Yet, according to the deep readings channeled by the sleeping prophet, this very inner resistance, this refusal to accept the final sentence, is the most profound sign that the connection remains vital and uninterrupted. It is not neurosis. It is the divine refusal of your identity to surrender its knowing of the continuum. Why? You are not merely experiencing grief. You are experiencing the energetic friction of two realities, the temporary, observable separation and the eternal, undeniable connection, clashing within your being. This friction is intense, yes, but it is also the mechanism that prepares you for reception. If you can accept that your doubt is validated, that your deepest instinct is correct, then you stop focusing on trying to summon them and start focusing on attuning to the frequency they already occupy. The love has not gone silent. The channel just requires clearing. We must now move beyond the mental validation of this certainty and turn our attention to the undeniable physical evidence, the first concrete sign that bypasses all argument and hits you, quite literally, where you live. The sheer volume of evidence recorded across 4 decades and nearly 14,000 separate, verified life readings obliterates the argument of mere coincidence. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, stepped voluntarily into the highest, most private chambers of cosmic design, the Akashic records, and brought back consistent, repeatable information about the machinery of existence. He didn't offer a new religion or a complex metaphysical doctrine. Instead, when pressed to define the foundational code of the universe, his message was monolithic, unwavering, and startlingly simple. Love is the only law. Think for a moment about the audacity of that statement. Across thousands of distinct cases, detailing everything from karmic debts and physical illness to past lives on Atlantis and prescriptions for the soul, the remedy, the core lesson, and the energetic root of all things always looped back to this single, operational truth. Your logical, analytical mind, conditioned by the hard realities of chemistry and gravity, will already be attempting to dilute this. It dismisses love as sentimental poetry, a flimsy emotion reserved for romantic comedies or abstract theology, X. But I am telling you that emotional word is simply the human label we attach to the immutable, governing force of the cosmos, Y. This love is not fluffy, it is frequency. It is not poetry, it is physics. It is the essential unifying pressure that holds the atoms together, the electrical current running through the vast energetic grid of creation. If this premise, verified by the unparalleled volume of Cayce's work, is true, then every time you perceive absolute separation, every time you fear that a loss is final, you are simply misinterpreting the reality of the divine mechanism. Do you understand the profound, terrifying freedom this realization grants you? If love is the ultimate, non-negotiable law, then complete separation, the utter cutting off of any soul from the source or from another soul, is energetically impossible. The universe simply isn't built that way. The foundation of existence is not isolation. It is inherent interconnection. Our departed loved ones, therefore, have not vanished into a void. They have merely shifted their vibrational speed. They have accelerated beyond our visible light spectrum, stepping across a threshold we might call death, but which Cayce recognized as a simple change in density. It is the difference between steam and ice. Both are water, but they occupy entirely different states and frequencies. The love has not gone silent. The signal is still broadcasting, strong and clear, because that signal is the very fabric of the universe. Your work, based on the authority of those 14,000 readings, is not to try to create the channel, but merely to attune your inner receiver to the higher, purer frequency of the fundamental law. This means stopping the noise of fear, stopping the constant demand for physical proof, and beginning to recognize the subtle, unmistakable physical consequences of this law already manifesting around you. We now move toward the first concrete sign, the undeniable physical evidence that proves this love is still actively engaged in your world, demanding your attention. The absolute barrier you believe separates mind from matter, and the living from the departed, is an illusion born only of fear and limited sensory input. I need you to recognize that the core truth governing all existence, as meticulously mapped by the profound readings of Edgar Cayce, is terrifyingly simple and infinitely profound. Love is the only law. This statement is not mere sentimentality or abstract romantic poetry. It is the fundamental energetic equation of the universe. If love, defined by Cayce not as emotion, but as an unceasing connecting frequency, is the true governing force, then everything that promotes separation, limitation, or decay operates strictly outside the natural, divine order. Your ingrained skepticism, shaped by centuries of materialist thinking, insists on distance and division, asserting that physical laws are paramount. Cayce's cosmic framework, however, demands unity, suggesting that consciousness cannot, by definition, be contained within three spatial dimensions. You were taught, implicitly or explicitly, that your consciousness is a fragile byproduct of your brain, a mere chemical fizzle destined to extinguish the moment the body fails. But what if the body is not the container of your soul, but simply the specialized transformer? Think of high-voltage electricity surging across power lines. The wire does not create the electricity, it merely conducts and directs it, stepping the massive infinite current down so that a local appliance like a light bulb can safely use its power. Your physical form operates in exactly the same way. It is a biological frequency modulator, designed to step the vast infinite energy of your soul down into the limited, tangible bandwidth of the physical plane, allowing you to interface with material reality. Do you sense the sheer destabilizing liberation in that idea? Your conditioned analytical mind is already calculating the flaws in this premise. It wants irrefutable physical proof that your entire identity isn't just a complex algorithm running on fatty acids, X. Yet Cayce proved repeatedly through his work that the mind is fundamentally non-local. It travels instantaneously, unbound by distance or time, retrieving information from what he termed the Akashic records. If consciousness were purely brain chemistry, this feat would be impossible. If the body is only the transformer, why, then the consciousness, upon physical death, does not vanish. It simply unplugs from the local current, shifting its frequency back toward its source and operating in a state unbound by the slow resistive forces of matter. This shift in frequency is precisely why the communication channels remain eternally open. The fundamental law of love creates a resonant field, a constant energetic hum that binds every soul together, regardless of their current plane of existence. You do not lose them. You lose the physical receiver through which you formerly perceived them. The ultimate challenge, therefore, is not whether the departed can reach you, the law guarantees they can, but whether you are willing to stop looking for the loud, familiar signal on the physical plane and start tuning your own inner receiver to their new, subtler broadcast. This tuning is the concrete step toward recognizing the undeniable physical evidence that proves this love is still actively engaged in your world. The physical evidence proving that love transcends the so-called veil is everywhere around you, but it is delivered not in a loud, universal language, but in a cipher personalized entirely for your heart. You have already started tuning your inner receiver, but the next step requires courage, the courage to stop labeling the miraculous as merely mundane. I am here to reveal that the messages from those who have transitioned are rarely delivered through familiar physical avenues. They do not use neon signs or booming loudspeakers. They use the energy of synchronicity, which is the subtle and refined language of the spirit realm. The 7 signs we are about to examine are not standard events. They are finely crafted echoes designed specifically for your emotional fingerprint. I know that the pragmatic calculator in your mind, that logical engine built on cause and effect, is already preparing its defenses. It prefers to categorize every strange occurrence under the banner of coincidence, X, of happenstance, or the simple psychological manifestation of unresolved grief. But what happens when the coincidence is too precise? What happens when the timing is mathematically impossible, responding directly to a private thought you just held moments before? I ask you to consider the immense difference between a simple anomaly, X, and a deeply resonant, personalized communication, Y. The greatest challenge you face in recognizing these undeniable signs is the expectation of grand theatrics. We anticipate a miracle that stops time, but the departed understand the law of love. They intervene gently through the existing tapestry of reality, weaving subtle threads of familiarity. This is why one of the clearest signals is the sudden, utterly inexplicable appearance of a distinctive, signature scent. Perhaps it is the tobacco your father smoked, or the rare rose perfume your grandmother wore, flooding a room where no such substance exists. Your mind will instantly dismiss this as X, a memory trick or a phantom scent. But your spirit recognizes the resonance. It is not the scent itself. It is the timing of the scent arriving precisely when you needed a hand to hold. Have you ever been deeply immersed in a difficult decision, feeling utterly alone, only to turn on the radio or walk into a shop where a forgotten song begins to play, a song that held immense private meaning between you and your loved one, complete with specific, timely lyrics that address your exact dilemma? You might call that luck, but I call it broadcast alignment. It is the law of love utilizing the only antennae available to it, your open heart. These signals are also found in the uncanny recurrence of symbols or shared objects. Perhaps a specific bird begins nesting outside your window, or you discover a lost personal item, a stone, a bookmark, a specific trinket, in a location it physically could not have been. These are not just artifacts, they are anchors designed to catch your awareness, demanding recognition. They are invitations to dialogue. The truth I must impress upon you is this. The 7 signs are not meant to convince the world that the departed exist. They are highly encrypted proofs meant only to convince you. You are the intended recipient. You hold the only key to the cipher. To ignore them is not skepticism. It is a refusal to read the love letter that has been carefully delivered. The practice is not finding the sign, but granting it the full measure of its dignity, and thereby reclaiming your identity as a co-creator across the veil. Are you ready to admit that the inexplicable moments you have dismissed as mere chance were, in fact, powerful, intentional affirmations of enduring connection? The inexplicable moments you have dismissed are not merely random noise in the vast spectrum of the universe. They are highly specific, calibrated transmissions delivered with the precision of a master craftsman. We are now charting the precise landscape of these enduring connections, looking not for generic fuzzy feelings, but for the tangible signatures of love that transcend the physical boundary. Understand this. The veil separating the dimensions is thin, porous, and constantly vibrating with the frequency of your personal relationships. Therefore, when communication occurs, it often uses the most immediate and profound tool available, sensory memory. I speak of the unmistakable, powerful, and deeply specific aroma that floods a room. The pipe tobacco your grandfather always smoked, the distinct brand of cheap cologne your friend wore, or the singular, slightly burned smell of your mother's favorite baking spice. Your analytical mind instantly attempts to rationalize this away, labeling it a neurological trigger or an olfactory hallucination, X. But I am here to reveal the truth. This is not a trigger. It is an energetic signature, Y, a dimensional fingerprint deliberately impressed upon your reality. It is a communication so fundamental that it bypasses the entire circuitry of logic, reaching directly into the emotional core where recognition resides. Have you ever stood alone in a quiet space and suddenly, violently encountered a familiar scent that belongs entirely to the past, knowing with absolute certainty that no physical source exists nearby? This signature is but one element of a complex communication system. The next involves the orchestration of the environment itself, what we call radical synchronicity. You hold a desperate question in your heart, a silent plea for direction concerning a crucial life choice, and within the span of hours, perhaps minutes, the answer arrives with jarring clarity. It might be the exact phrase you need repeated verbatim on two different radio stations. The sudden appearance of a previously unknown book title containing the very guidance you required, or a license plate flashing past your window bearing a message that directly addresses your dilemma. The skeptical part of you, the part trained by Newtonian physics, instantly dismisses this as sheer chance, a simple case of focusing on relevant data, X. But I ask you to look closer. Was the timing not too perfect? Was the delivery not too elegant? I tell you, based on the laws of energy that Edgar Cayce mapped, that this is not accident. It is divine calculation. Why? It is the careful placement of spiritual breadcrumbs, the whisper that guides you, constructed by an intelligence that adheres to the highest law of the universe, love. Because love remains the connective tissue, those who have passed can still manipulate the flow of chance around you, ensuring the right message finds you at the right time. Do you see the distinction? We are not seeking the vague coincidence of a flickering lamp. We are seeking the precise, repetitive, directional sequencing that answers the specific, silent petition of your soul. Your task is not to question the mechanism of the answer, but to recognize that you are worthy of this detailed, directional guidance. Stop treating these signs as accidental noise and start recognizing them as a structured language designed specifically for you. When the impossible synchronicity occurs, do you accept the profound dignity of the message, or do you quickly retreat into the comfortable armor of skepticism? The connection is only validated when you choose to act not as a mere observer of chance, but as a recognized recipient of enduring affection. This practice demands that you step fully into the identity of the beloved. Are you ready to admit that you are, in fact, being guided? The deepest invitation of enduring love is to accept the reality of an ever-present guiding hand. If you have chosen to act as the recognized recipient of this enduring affection, then you must now focus on the consequence of that choice. We arrive at the seventh and most mystifying signal, the one your rational mind works hardest to dismiss, the unmistakable sensation of being seen. You know this feeling intimately. It is that subtle shift in the air when you are utterly alone, the quiet hum at the edge of your hearing, the momentary chill that raises the fine hairs on your arms, even when the room is comfortably warm. Why is it that the moment we sense a presence that transcends our immediate five senses, our default human programming immediately registers it as a threat? We are trained by culture and history to confuse powerful attention with suspicious surveillance. Your logical self quickly labels this sensation as mere physiological anxiety, or perhaps in darker moments, the creeping tendrils of paranoia, X, believing any invisible awareness must carry an agenda of judgment or intrusion. But I ask you to stop right there and reconsider the frequency of that feeling. Is the energy accompanying that shift heavy and judgmental, or is it merely pure? Is it contracting, or is it infinitely spacious? This is not the feeling of being watched by an intruder. It is the enveloping sense of being held by a love that requires no return, a dedication that cannot be diminished by distance or time. This frequency, according to the meticulous records of Edgar Cayce, is the highest form of conscious dedication the universe can offer. It is the signature hum of your perpetual guardian. This presence is not some detached celestial bureaucrat checking boxes. It is the aggregation of all the loving energy you have ever earned and received, often personified by those departed souls whose bonds transcended the material realm precisely because love is the only law. They are not hovering in judgment. They are simply refusing to let go of the luminous thread that connects your spirit to theirs. They exist in a state of dedicated, uninterrupted attention. When you feel that sudden spike of fear or deep, inexplicable loneliness, the kind that makes you yearn for a connection you can't quite name, you are, ironically, brushing against the physical edge of the most profound connection available to you. Do you recognize how often you misinterpret profound, unwavering care as profound emptiness? the mind confuses the sacred intensity of sustained spiritual focus, Y, with simple mundane solitude, X. The fact that this attention feels intense is merely confirmation of its purity. It is not vigilance, it is the attention of 1,000 suns, focused solely on your welfare. The ultimate challenge here is to shift your internal interpretation from "I am alone" and subject to external forces to the realization, "I am so deeply loved that I am never truly alone." That subtle vibration is not a defect in your reality. It is the evidence of perfect fidelity. It is the universe holding its breath, awaiting your next move, ready to confirm your guidance through the small practical signs that will follow. You must transform the fear of being haunted into the calm security of being protected. When that feeling washes over you next time, will you recoil in suspicion, or will you stop, inhale deeply, and speak a silent acknowledgement to the purest, most dedicated attention in your energetic sphere? Will you stop treating the most profound evidence of enduring love as a strange, uncomfortable mystery? The signal is clear, but the decoding, the practice, requires your conscious affirmation, moving you fully into the identity of the protected beloved. The decoding of the enduring signal of love requires more than mere belief. It demands a radical shift from passive observation to active, conscious preparation. You must stop waiting for the cosmic phone to ring and realize that you are the one responsible for building the cellular tower capable of receiving and transmitting that high-frequency connection. This is where the practical instruction, the ritual of the channel of pure intention, changes everything, shifting your identity from the grieving survivor to the protected beloved, fully capable of managing the communication flow. I know what the skeptical part of your mind is already doing. It is trying to label this as simple journaling, X, a minor psychological exercise designed to process grief through ink and paper. But I assure you, based on the principle that love is the only law, we are engaging in something far more profound and effective. In Y, we are establishing a physical, measurable anchor point for non-physical energy. We are performing an act of sacred engineering. Your first step must be to designate this space. Find a physical notebook that you dedicate solely to this purpose, a clean slate perhaps bound in leather, or a color that brings you peace. This notebook is not merely a collection of blank pages, it is your tuning fork, designed to resonate only with the purest frequency of intention. When you sit down, I invite you to conduct a preparation that is both simple and profoundly ritualistic. Dim the lights, eliminate noise, and dedicate the first few breaths not to asking for contact, but to declaring the state of your heart. You are not begging for a sign. You are affirming the continuity of love. Are you willing to commit 10 to 15 minutes daily to this deliberate, focused affirmation of continuity? Once grounded, the practice is not about writing a diary of your sadness, but forging an intentional link. Address your loved one directly, not as a memory fading in the past, but as a consciousness actively present in the sphere of your energy. Share the deep, unvarnished truths, express gratitude for the lessons you learned, and crucially, use this time to release any lingering guilt, any burdens you might unconsciously believe you still carry for them. This is not processing unresolved feelings, X. This is closing the low-frequency loop of regret so that the high-frequency channel of pure communication can open, Y. You are writing not to mourn, but to meet. Understand that every word you commit to that physical paper creates a powerful material representation of your intention. The notebook becomes a spiritual capacitor, storing and amplifying the frequency of pure, unqualified love. It creates a vacuum of peace that energy across the dimensional veil naturally seeks to fill. Don't worry about hearing immediate voices or seeing visions. The signal of success is an overwhelming sense of deep, protective peace. This ritual shifts the question from, "Are they still here?" to "How deeply and clearly am I prepared to receive the evidence of their enduring presence?" Through this practice, you are not simply remembering them. You are affirming your identity as the conscious channel, the safe harbor in which enduring love manifests. Begin today. Open the book, quiet the noise, and claim the identity you already hold, the protected beloved ready to practice the law of love. We have traveled together through territory that many avoid, the intersection where the seen meets the unseen, where temporal life bows to eternal love. If you allowed the profound insights documented by Edgar Cayce to truly penetrate the quiet chambers of your mind, you are no longer the same person who pressed play moments ago. The persistent fear that once treated the veil between worlds as an impenetrable, terrifying barrier, the old superstition X, has begun its essential process of dissolution, replaced by the profound certainty, the sacred truth Y, that love establishes the only lasting, viable communication system. You have moved beyond mere hope. You now carry the architectural blueprint for continuous conscious connection. Do you recognize the seismic shift that has occurred in your inner landscape? This transformation, I must tell you, cannot remain trapped solely within the silent cathedral of your own soul. The law of love, like any universal principle, gains tremendous power not just through passive understanding, but through its active, practical application and its broad distribution. Think of what happens when a single light is ignited in a deep cave. It illuminates only a small circumference, but when that light is shared, when it touches another wick and spreads its flame, it begins the process of conquering the darkness entirely. Your realization that love is the only true law, the only required condition for eternal communication, is exactly such a light. It is time now to anchor this understanding, not just in your being, but to introduce it into the collective consciousness that desperately needs this truth to ease its suffering. I invite you now to make a triple commitment that seals this transformation. First, if these revelations have resonated in the ancient foundations of your heart, ensure you subscribe and remain connected with us. This is not a casual community. It is a vital, ongoing laboratory for higher awareness and focused spiritual practice. Second, share this crucial message. Who in your immediate circle is struggling right now under the cruel delusion of final, irreparable separation? Give them the energetic map that Cayce provided. And finally, I need you to confirm to me, and more importantly to yourself, that you didn't just intellectually grasp these concepts, but that you have spiritually tuned the internal dial. This delicate adjustment of inner awareness is everything. To affirm that you have successfully completed this internal tuning, that you have adjusted your receiver to the proper channel of eternal presence, I ask you to comment below, right now. Use the single code word that defines this entire journey: frequency. This word isn't just a label for a scientific concept, it is the sonic key that confirms you are no longer viewing these interactions as random, benevolent chance or mere synchronicity, X luck coincidence, but as the inevitable result of a deliberate, focused and high vibrational practice, Y mastery conscious creation. When you comment frequency, you are not merely engaging with an algorithm. You are activating a silent eternal pact with your own highest self. You are stating clearly, both to the universe and to the departed loved ones who are waiting patiently for your clear signal. I am the channel, my love is the law. I have adjusted the dial and I am ready to receive the continuous transmission. This is the moment to move irrevocably from student to practitioner, from seeker to custodian of this sacred unifying knowledge. Do you accept this empowering identity? The greatest adventure is not in merely finding the answers, but in the courage to finally live them. The greatest adventure is not in merely finding the answers, but in the courage to finally live them. The search, in many profound ways, ends here. You have journeyed through the veil of physical perception, moving past the fearful whispers of finality and isolation. The profound realization, the true inheritance left to us by the meticulous insights of Edgar Cayce, is this: the sense of fragmentation, the deep, aching belief that you are a collection of isolated parts existing briefly in a cold, indifferent universe, is the greatest illusion you have ever accepted. The moment you understood that love is the law, you re-architected your reality. You discovered the energetic truth that binds the cosmos together. What your logical mind once labeled as mere wishful thinking, dependent longing, or perhaps even a mild psychological coping mechanism, X, is in truth the undeniable evidence of universal architecture, Y. This connectivity is not merely a comforting philosophy, it is the core mechanism of creation itself. Love is not an emotion, it is the single constant gravitational force in the cosmos, the only law that transcends the boundaries we call life and death. The departed do not need complex rituals or specific coordinates to reach you. They simply need the pure, open channel of this law, which already resides perfectly calibrated within your heart. Have you truly grasped the magnitude of this concept? That the energy connecting you now is the exact same energy that holds the stars in place, guaranteeing every sunrise and orchestrating every cosmic dance. You are not merely a transient visitor, waiting for the end of the show. You are the living conduit, the absolute proof that this unbreakable link exists. When you feel a gentle presence, a sudden warmth, or an undeniable flash of memory that brings profound peace, stop dismissing it as coincidence. Stop classifying it as mere sentimentality or a trick of the mind. Instead, claim your spiritual authority. This is the moment to shed the heavy cloak of separateness and step into your designated role as a custodian of connection. You must stop waiting for a sign out there and become the sign yourself. I invite you now to internalize the only message that truly matters. Make this the unwavering commitment you practice every time doubt tries to build a wall around you. Whenever the shadows of fear or isolation creep in, look inward and declare the permanent truth of your being. This is your operational mantra, the highest frequency transmission you can broadcast. Repeat this silently, right now, letting the vibration settle deep into the core of your existence. I am not fragmented. I am the permanent evidence that love is the only law. Because love is the only law, I am eternally connected. I am a continuum of consciousness. I will never be alone again. This is your final identity claim. Live this law, be this law, and discover that the isolation you once feared was merely the silence before your soul's greatest symphony began to play.